Welcome to the True Life News Show, guys, because Trump and Elon have now uncovered a huge scandal. This is, again, guys, when it comes to Biden and the administration before us, they literally lied about everything. We now have evidence, we now know the truth, that they were fudging the numbers when it came to the catch and release numbers that they showed us pertaining to the amount of terrorists, rapists, murders that came into our country, as well as illegal immigrants. We were told it was about 11 to 12 million that came in during the Biden administration over the 4 years that he was president. Well, we now know and are finding out that it was actually around double that number. Trump was right again. Remember, Trump kept saying 20, 25 million, and everybody kept saying, oh no, the fact checkers say it's only 11 to 12 million. And now we know that it was about double that. Homeland Security is now releasing new numbers, new investigations into where the numbers were fudged, how much they were truly fudged by, who gave the call to lie about all these numbers, but it was definitely under the Biden administration. Somebody needs to be held accountable. This is a huge, huge scandal. On the flip side of that, we do have phenomenal good news, guys, because President Trump has done what he said he was going to do. He has gotten the Russian President Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire. Right now, they are all going to be meeting, and they're en route for these peace talks to go through and figure out what's going to be the plan of who gets what's going to happen to end this war. This is one of the biggest monumental things ever. We knew it was coming. News early this morning, it actually happened. They agreed to it. Now they're going to meet to discuss all the details. Huge gold star for Trump. We also have right now where there is a ton of protesters that have taken over the Trump Tower in New York. NYPD is arresting these protesters as we speak, and these are supporters of Muhammad Khalil, who, again, this was the same terrorist-funded person who's here on a student visa, who the Democrats want to be here, who is in favor and support of the Hamas terrorist group. And the Hamas terrorist group, guys, this is a group that has done some horrible things in the Middle East. But these protesters are all saying, we love Hamas, we support Hamas. This is literally putting us into a state that we're going to create a line and divide. These are the crazies. When you support a terrorist group that has no problem with killing children and women and men and all this like nothing, you need help. So right now we also have new disclosures from the Treasury, guys. Again, the scandals keep coming. New treasuries, the Treasury has disclosed that the Biden administration was stonewalling banks from allowing them to file thousands of SARs. SARs are suspicious activity reports against ActBlue, the largest Democrat-funded, campaign-funded organization out there. They said its system was designed to facilitate fraudulent credit card use and allow overseas large amounts of money to come in without no trace. Now we know the Biden administration was covering up that as well. Why do you think that Trump was only able to raise $1 billion and you had the Democratic Party raise $2 billion when it came to the presidential campaign? All these scandals are popping up, guys, and it's like breaking news every single day, but this is 100% the transparency that we want. We all knew it was happening, and now we actually have the evidence. We got a dang good show for you today, guys. Want to say thank you to all of our subscribers. Want to say thank you to all of our members of the channel. If you don't mind doing us a favor and hitting that thumbs up like button, we appreciate your support. Yeah, you see these guys, these fireworks are because Trump is winning, MAGA is winning, America is winning. Want to thank all of our supporters, guys, everybody that shares this channel, everybody that gives a super chat donation. We're so grateful for your support. Want to thank Elaine Demeen for your support and Mr. Tracy J. Norby. Let's go. Who said, thanks, True Life News, brother. Please put all this to making new members. Make sure Sherry tells us taken care of for the next 2 months membership. If you could swing that for me. Love what you're doing, Joel. I'm at 19 to 24 shirts now. Let's go. Hey, guys, y'all show Mr. Norby some love in the chat. We've got a lot of scandals to go over today. There's judges right now that are literally calling on orders to tell Trump to go hire all the people that he just fired. The thousands and thousands of people that just happened, that just got fired, that were on probationary status. Now these judges are trying to order Trump to either you either go hire these people back, or we're gonna send potential lawsuits that could put you in prison. This is what these judges are trying to tell the president of the United States because he fired people. Guys, we're going to move into some type of internal civil war. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to get over this scandal, guys, because this is huge. Check this out.
Fox News alert. Top Homeland Security officials just revealed that Joe Biden was cooking the books on border arrests. Joe Biden said he arrested tens of thousands of migrant criminals, but they weren't arrested. Biden just caught and released them. Biden was taking credit for the catches, but then hiding the releases. If Biden was lying about this, what else is he lying about? Jobs numbers, the cocaine, obviously. Why should we believe anything Biden said after he told us he was healthy? Donald Trump should open an investigation into everything Joe Biden put out. ICE says they're now trying to find and lock up the illegals that Biden lied about arresting. Trump's team already arrested more migrants than Biden did in all of 2024, and he hasn't even been in office 2 months. Homan was in New York today. He went to the state capitol just to knock some heads together. He told Governor Hochul that if she doesn't get it together, New York's getting iced.
Sanctuary city is going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community. We'll double the man force here if we have to. Because rather than one officer arresting a bad guy in the jail, one officer arresting one bad guy, now I got to send the whole team.
Homan just wants to make everyone's job easier.
Do you think local law enforcement has the resources to both cooperate with ICE and also conduct public safety for Americans that are committing crimes?
Yes.
Why?
Because they want public safety threats out of their community too, and they're willing to work with feds to make that happen. Every time I go in New York City, I don't think I've ever seen an NYPD officer that didn't come shake my hand and thank me for what we're doing. They want to help. These officers, they don't get paid a lot of money, but they want to protect their community, and they know someone's here illegally, and they can help not only remove them from the community, remove them from the country, make the community safer. They're all in. And I don't think it takes a lot of... Rather than arresting the same guy 5 times, arrest him once, give him an us. You don't arrest him anymore. I think it's going to relieve a lot of officers' time on the streets.
Democrats didn't like that. When they heard the border czars coming to town, there was an insurrection at the New York State Capitol. Watch.
Golly.
How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
That guy screaming at the end, he's running for New York City mayor. And apparently he's surging in the polls, which is just great. Just great. He's like a mini de Blasio. But Homan brushed him off. He's got about 20 million more migrants to deport. No time for protests. Once he's done with New York, he should head up to Boston. That mayor wants to tango.
In terms of mass deportation, our officers will not play a role in that. And, we have not gotten any advance notice from the Trump administration about what they'll do.
Will Kane's the host of the Will Kane Show, and we deported him from Texas. He's all the way up here in New York. Have you ever seen anybody fight that hard for a foreigner?
That's incredible. It's incredible that these mayors stand so strongly in support of a crime. They will not allow law enforcement to enforce the law in their city. So be it, says Boston. And then this issue, Jesse, which you began the segment talking about, which is cooking the books from the Biden administration. Last I checked, and what I remember, that term implies a crime, cooking the books. In fact, isn't that the crime that the state of New York prosecuted Donald Trump for?
They made that one up.
Cooking the books.
We don't have to make it up when you say you caught a guy and then released him.
Right. And I did wonder about that. I looked it up, Jesse, because the government has its own immunity. Those kind of laws, lying on a government form, is always for a private citizen lying to the government. But what about when the government lies to its citizens, robs us of our ability to have a real democratic election, which we would need accurate information? So what when the government lies? Well, I did look it up. I mean, there are several U.S. laws, 18 U.S.C. I mean,
Guys, if you think Biden should be in prison for this, Well, it's like hard. Would you put him in prison? He wasn't even running it, but he was in charge. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this is big, big stuff, guys. And if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
Can go to 1001 or 2071. At some point, these government officials, be it Alejandro Mayorkas or Joe Biden, need to be held accountable for lying directly to the face of the American people.
Well, I'm glad you did research to come on prime time. That's
Rarely,
more than we can say for most guests.
It is prime time.
Are you suggesting Pam Bondi should look into Mayorkas to see what he did here?
I absolutely think the Department of Justice should look into Mayorkas. I think if you lie to the American people, this is what they've accused Donald Trump of doing for years. And if they have done that, and you ask a good question, did they not also lie on jobs reports? We know the answer to that. They revised, what did they revise? Every month.
500,000 went down one time.
And they did it like every month for a 6-month period. They revised it down month after month to convince the American electorate that everything was okay.
Should there be a commission to look into the Biden administration? There's so many things out there that need to be looked into.
And the problem is everybody watching at home right now will say, yes, Jesse, yes, Will, but that's frustrating because I'll get a congressional panel that will talk and nothing will ever happen. And I hear it, and I know that you feel that way.
Wait a second, no, but you can bring these guys in, right? You subpoena them, you say, come and testify. And if you don't, technically, you can refer them to the Justice Department.
That's the key.
For, what is it, disrespecting Congress, ignoring a congressional
perjury.
Subpoena? Right, if they lie under oath.
Which they do.
You get them for, which they always do, you get them for perjury.
Right, and now you have an FBI, hopefully in Kash Patel, and a Department of Justice at Pam Bondi that would actually do something beyond the congressional panel. But yes, there has to. The excuse in politics is that the form of accountability when you lie to the American people is the election. And they did pay a price. And the American people did hold them accountable for their lies. The American people elected Donald Trump. But I would like to see some other form of accountability to disincentivize these politicians from continuing to lie on jobs, on pass-through arrests,
on some of these green scams where the money just disappears. They're going to say you want revenge, that you want retribution, and you are weaponizing the Justice Department to get revenge on your political opponent.
Say what they want. Say what you want. I call it justice.
Okay, you call it accountability, we call it justice. Will Cain.
Y'all see this, guys? Like, I'm telling you, the numbers say everything. You can't deny the numbers. Look at this. When last year, 140,000 supposedly were apprehended at the border, but then just let into our country. Trump comes in, it's a 94% decrease. That's America first right there. This is making America safe again. This was put out by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. We also found out, guys, that look at this. Trump is ready. President Trump to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to quickly speed up mass deportations. Why? Because right now, guys, we have now found out that there's literally like double the amount of people that came into our country under the Biden administration than we presumed. And all the while, guys, listen, look at this. Democrats using, Elon put out, Democrats using taxpayer funds to import illegal immigrants and shift elections. Under the Biden administration, at least $30 billion has been funneled into migrant support. $30 billion. With 9 million illegals arriving and 400,000 children born to illegal immigrants in 2024 alone. Democrats called it equity, but Elon calls it what it is, voter engineering. In New York and California, for local and state elections, illegal immigrants are allowed to vote. You don't even have to be a citizen. This is 100% designed. This is 100% their plan. Mayorkas, Biden, every single one of them needs to be held accountable for this. Because right now we're facing a government shutdown because we don't got enough money and we can't get a budget in check. And the Democrats are ready to shut down the government. Look at this, guys, because I'm telling you, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but at least you know the truth.
If government shuts down, which it doesn't really shut down, it is the apocalypse. It is the instant apocalypse. Nothing will happen and life will come to a halt. Which is weird because government shut down before and none of that stuff has actually happened. But the Democrats have told us, you shut down government, it is the time will stop. So here is prominent Republican conservative senator. He tells me this guy has now officially changed parties. I didn't get the news flash, did you? Prominent conservative Palestinian, too, which I was unaware of, right, Guy? Chuck Schumer? Yeah, Palestinian as well. I did not know this. They have this on here. But here's prominent, this guy's a House Freedom Caucus guy, kind of guy, just on the Senate side. Chuck Schumer telling us how the government shutdowns are now a good thing again, how we should shut government down. So I didn't know this guy converted. This is incredible. I'm like baptism by fire. Check this out.
Funding the government should be a bipartisan effort, but Republicans chose a partisan path, drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR.
Notice how obviously we're kidding. This is one of the most liberal Democrats in the Senate. But you almost have to, you don't have to like it, which I certainly don't, but you almost have to respect the grift going on here. How he says Republicans don't have the votes to stop cloture. What he's saying in a backwards, did you guys catch that when you listen to it? He doesn't want to state the obvious, which is the Democrats are withholding the votes to pass the bill. So he's blaming it on Republicans. Did you guys get that? The Democrats have a magical, almost magical power, and I don't mean that in a qualitatively good way, to use language in a way that makes you to believe the opposite of what's happening is actually happening. You see what he did there? He could just state the obvious, we're not voting for this and the government's going to shut down. He doesn't say that. Republicans have not successfully acquired enough of the spreadsheet-type transactional vote numbers in order to invoke the cloture. Because he doesn't want to say the obvious. We're shutting the government down. I thought we weren't shutting. I thought the government shutdown was terrible. People are all going to, you went through the whole litany of horribles. You ever hear the term parade of horribles? Everyone's going to die if the government shuts down. So now the Democrats who told us, we need government. You need government in every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life. There's nothing, you can't hit a baseball without government. Now all of a sudden the Democrats are the shut the government down party. Once you learn to dissect political euphemisms, you can never go back. How he handled that is why I played that clip. Notice the language he uses. He doesn't want to state the obvious. So what's the solution to that? Folks, the solution to that is for you all to get out the message out there that it's not the Republicans who shut this thing down. Whether we agree with the spending levels or not, I don't. I've been fairly candid about that. But we didn't have the votes. We will through reconciliation. The Democrats, are the ones not voting to keep the government open, therefore voting to shut it down by simple logic. Here's Chuck Schumer again. Again, misdirection is how they do everything. I want you to notice again how they use euphemisms and word games to try to play games with things that are actual facts. 3 + 3 = 6. There's no way to word game your way out of that, okay? Here he is talking about Elon and Social Security fraud. So Elon Musk and the DOGE found out, before you hear this clip so you understand, that there's a lot of fraud in Social Security, but here's how it's working. There are people calling Social Security offices and changing over the phone routing numbers. So if Guy gets Social Security, Michael calls and says, hey, flip it over to my account without Guy's authorization. Elon and his team found that this is a real problem and are fixing the phone system. Listen to the way Schumer characterizes this and says, we don't have evidence of all this fraud. Really? I'll show you the receipts coming up after that. Check this out.
Americans certainly support eliminating waste, but they don't want to see their Social Security benefits taken away over a lie perpetuated in hopes of just slashing them to give tax breaks for billionaires paid for by the middle class. As Musk lies shamelessly about Social Security, he conveniently ignores the federal government already conducts an audit of Social Security every single year. He cherry picks data to suggest that tens of millions of dead people are getting checks. This is a lie, like so many of his other lies.
It's a lie,
guys.
folks.
It is like, when I hear this, I literally just reported to you that Trump is trying to make it so that the middle class and poor and the poor class of America don't have to pay taxes. If you make $150,000 or less a year for single, it would be more for double, then you wouldn't have to pay federal income taxes. This was just announced yesterday. The Democrats can do nothing but lie, lie, lie. And it makes me so mad because we have so many people that are ignorant and have no idea what's going on, and they believe it. God, we need people to really get beside themselves. Forget about Trump, forget about Elon Musk. Look at the policies. What are they actually doing? And then look at that. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Said time to stop voting for the lawyers to run the government. Ain't that the dang truth? Want to say, too, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, we really appreciate that. Appreciate you so much.
It's a lie. He made it up. It's a lie. No fraud in Social Security. Except if you go back to this Office of Inspector General report from August 19, 2024, which says what? Yes, Justin, you're correct. He's like, I didn't say anything. I know. Which says there is, shockingly, fraud in Social Security. They found nearly $72 improperly paid. That doesn't say $72. It says $72 billion. Billion dollars? Billion. 72 billion. That's a lot of money. Do me a favor, Justin. Look up the entire state budget of, say, North Dakota. Tell me what it is. So let me read this Inspector General report. Inspector General reports, this is, by the way, 2024. August of 2024. Nearly $72 billion is improperly paid. Recommended improvements go unimplemented. Through several audits, Social Security Administration, Inspector General, made dozens of recommendations to prevent improper payments before they occur. Also to correct existing improper payments. However, to date, many of those recommendations remain unimplemented, leading to continued improper payments. 72 billion. This is not an Austin Powers moment.
This says the North Dakota state budget for the 2025 biennium is approved by the 2023 Legislative Assembly. Totals $19.6 billion.
Wow. Guy says 19 points, round up, 20 billion. So you're talking about over 3x the budget of an entire state in this great United States of America.
Fraud.
That's the fraud in the system. 3 times.
Guys, and you know what the budget is for Tennessee? I just looked it up, $56.2 billion. We have more fraud in the Social Security than the entire budget of a growing state like Tennessee. $56.2 billion. $72 billion in fraud in Social Security because we can't get our dang act together. Imagine how much more people could get an increase on Social Security if we would just fix the systems. Right now, guys, a federal judge has just ordered 6 federal agencies to reinstate thousands of probationary employees terminated by president after being suggested by DOGE. Apparently, they say the president is no longer in control of the executive branch. Rogue judges are. So it's hilarious that all these things are happening and they're very leftist judges. I just wonder where the heck were the conservative judges during the Biden administration or the Obama administration. If it's so easy for a leftist judge to come in and just stop all these executive orders, then how come this didn't happen before? Maybe because it's something you're not even allowed to do. But these leftist judges are going so far out that they want to stop Trump at all cost, that they're willing to do this, and every one of them should be expelled from their positions. Warrior Woman for JC, let's go. Welcome to the family. Thank you so much, B1 Sly One, for the super chat. He said Congress and Senate should not get paid, including back pay, benefits, perks, flights, or security protection if the government shuts down. 100%. Y'all show B1 Sly One, Warrior Woman, and Andy some love in the chat. If the government shuts down, all the people that shouldn't get paid are the congressional people. Senators, congressmen, congresswomen, none of them. Because you didn't do your job. You were elected to go in there, manage the budget, make sure that we are putting America first, and make sure that Americans are taken care of, and they don't do it. This is what blows my mind. If I had enough money, guys, if I, trust me, I'm really working, and I pray to God, Lord willing, that if it works out, that I'll be a billionaire one day. And I would literally fund myself a movement to expose Washington at the deepest levels possible, to redo everything, because it doesn't work. You have career politicians in there. We don't have term limits. We continuously have unbalanced budgets. We have lobbyists that pay off our politicians, and we continue to see fraud, waste, and abuse. And it doesn't matter if it's Republican or if it's a Democrat in there. And we're finally getting the exposure under Trump and Elon Musk. But what happens if they leave? Are we still going to have those same type of people in there? We don't know. Michelle Eisner, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. But it is dang time that we get some transparency, because if we don't, we will continuously be screwed over as Americans forever. Because they don't care, guys. That you don't get a choice to pay taxes. They'll put your butt in jail. But dang it, if you don't pay your property taxes, they'll seize your house. But they get to get paid. Do you know that congressional people get stipends for their cars and apartments there in Washington? You got a couple of them that get $1,000 a month stipends for their cars. Now tell me, is that fair? Listen to this.
The mood has totally changed, George said. What you're hearing publicly is not what you're going to hear privately. So what kind of an effect, a dampening effect, on actually speaking out loud about the lawsuit against Perkins Coie, whatever the...
Okay. We could go on. We had a long call open. I want to bring Mike Davis in. So, Mike, this radical federal judge insurrection, you've got judges now saying that Trump can't actually withhold money, that it's got to be paid $2 billion in the foreign aid, which is going to lead to a bigger fight on impoundment. And folks, understand, Schumer's shutting down the government tomorrow at midnight. We're going to have a shutdown. The Schumer shutdown is going to happen. And President Trump's already offered up something very fair, but it's shutting down because the Democrats are not comfortable with impoundment. They're laying it out there. So this fight is now going to be both in the legislative and it's going to get to the courts. They've also said President Trump can't fire people. That some of the firings that they're doing, particularly on these probationary periods, these first-line judges come out and say he doesn't have ability to do that. Perkins Coie is actually taking on the legal structure in the imperial capital. The city is run by these big law firms, Covington and Burley and Perkins Coie being the two most radical, right? Eric Holder one, Mark Elias and Bob Barrett the other. These are not, and you notice these guys' hands are in everything. Just across the board in everything that's trying to happen, we're getting chop block or slowed down by these radical judges at the front line. And this is why Article 3 is so important. These judges are everything. And this is why you see Chutkan and everything popping up on all these different cases. But the Supreme Court hasn't been great either. So, Davis, everybody looks to you as the viceroy. What in the hell is going on here, brother?
So President Trump campaigned on the fact that he's going to hire Elon Musk. He's going to set up the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and he's going to go after waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington, D.C. And that is shocking to people in D.C. because Trump is actually a politician who's actually going to do what he promised American voters he was going to do, and he's doing this very quickly, right? He is off to the races. We are less than 2 months into the administration, and they're ripping signs off at USAID and closing down agencies. And these activist judges need to remember this. The president is exercising his core Article 2 power under the Constitution. He has the executive power. The executive power belongs to the president and the president alone. And that means the president can fire people if he doesn't want them working in the executive branch, including whether it's Hampton Dellinger, the special counsel who got fired and Trump won that victory in the DC circuit, or if it's a multi-member board, like one of these agencies that are set up with a 5-member board where They think that we can take executive power and give it to these 5-member boards with, three partisans of one party and 2 partisans of another party. That's not constitutional, right? And you're going to see with President Trump firing these executive branch board members that this is going to get to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to overrule a key case called Humphrey's Executor.
Well, hang on. I'll get to the court in a second. ACB and Roberts. So, but put pin. I want to get there first, but I got to go back because it's best when people understand the big ideas that are at play, and then all of a sudden all the machinations begin to fit into a mental map so they can kind of discern. The deconstruction of the administrative state. The basic theory is, and this is your great clerk for Gorsuch, the great intellectual leader of this, is that this over the last 50 or even from FDR, this administrative, a fourth branch of government that became these alphabet agencies, but also certain cabinet positions like Department of Education that got bigger, that the administrative state became a permanent government, right? That has never been envisioned in the Constitution. And so the deconstruction of the administrative state, of which Elon Musk and the DOGE and the Musketeers over at DOGE, right, are a hammer to kind of implement. They're shock troops to look at waste, fraud, and abuse. But it gets back to this theory because remember, that's on the executive side of the equation. You have this theory called the unitary executive theory, where the President of the United States by the Constitution is the chief executive officer of the federal government. He is the commander-in-chief of the military uniformed services, and he is the chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer of the United States to kind of unwind what happened after Watergate. In those three, right, powers is not even against the legislature. You're actually going against an administrative and deep state executive branch that's out of control. These federal judges is basically telling you at the front line, correct me if I'm wrong, that they're on the side of the administrative state, that they don't believe any of this theory. They don't believe the president is the chief executive officer. They don't believe that the president is actually the commander-in-chief of the uniformed services. And they certainly don't believe that he's the chief magistrate and the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government. Is that basically the theory? And you're seeing at the front line, the worst case for them, they're slowing us down and making it as painful as possible that you got to go through these every single time with these judges that in Tacoma, Washington can have a TRO, an injunction that shuts down the entire ability for us to move. Is that essentially the theory? And that's where the bid in the ask is between these radical judges and the law firms. And this is why Trump's going to the law firms to get them out of government business so that the law firms lose 90% of their revenues. Is that basically the theory of the case? And that's the map of the battlefield?
Guys, let me tell you this, that literally it was a judge, a federal judge in San Francisco, U.S. District Judge William Alsup, that is the one who is telling the president to go hire everybody that DOGE just recommended for them to fire. A judge in San Francisco that is a very leftist judge, guys. There's no doubt about it. But how is it that a leftist judge in San Francisco can tell the president of the United States what to do in his position? It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, guys, thank you so much for your support. Putin and Zelensky agreed to a Trump ceasefire. This is insanely huge, guys. You cannot make this up that it's happened this fast in less than 2 months since Trump has been president. We are seeing history in the making, and regardless, remember, Zelensky was just here a week ago trying to tout his stuff, and he got kicked out of the White House. Putin has been more, even Trump said Putin has been easier to work with, but we still know Putin's not our friend. I wouldn't even say Zelensky is our friend. These are leaders of other countries that they are trying to look out for the best interest of their country, as should we. And we need to make sure that this whole world stops funding these forever wars. Democrats want it. Remember, we spent $9 trillion, not billion, not million. We spent $9 trillion because Bush got us into war. With Afghanistan, the Iraq, everything. And it's about time that we have a president who says, stop with the forever wars. Let's get to a deal. And let's make sure that we stop all the killing and all the dying. And what I love is that, again, we are dealing with a person who thinks in the term of business. Make a deal. Check this out.
To somebody in person about the tariffs, it's going to have to be him. He is there for this meeting of the G7 foreign secretaries in Quebec. Those meetings of foreign secretaries can be so boring, but not today, and that's going to happen any minute. Back here at the White House, the main event today is going to be a visit from the NATO Secretary General Rutte, as the president wonders aloud about reforms to the alliance, where members are bound to defend other members if attacked.
NATO has to treat us fairly if they pay their bills and if they do what they're supposed to do. When I first got involved with NATO, as you know, they weren't paying their bills. NATO's expended a lot of that money in fighting this horrible war. It's too bad they had to do that. But they had the money from me. I was the one that got people to pay. The countries, but NATO can be a force for the good, absolutely.
We know the president's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is in Moscow today. We've reached out to his team about reports that Mr. Witkoff is planning to meet with Putin at some point in the next couple hours, and that could be a key step towards the end of the war in Ukraine.
People are going to Russia right now as we speak, and hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia, but I don't want to do that because I want to see peace. And we're getting close to maybe getting something done.
So President Trump says he wants a ceasefire in Ukraine, but it's up to Russia. The Russians have just put out the word that they are ready to talk to the Americans about this plan the Ukrainians have agreed to for a ceasefire as early as today. Back to you.
Pretty amazing. Peter, the one thing I hear, it's a non-starter for international troops. That's what Lavrov keeps saying. We will not want Russia, French or British troops or any NATO troops in there. And that's the one thing that Ukraine says. I have to have troops in there. We need some type of tripwire. Do you think it's posturing, or do you think this is going to be an impasse?
It seems like it could be an impasse because... and that is part of the reason why Donald Trump just went directly to Moscow to start these negotiations instead of going through NATO, because you're hearing some of these other key NATO members like the Brits saying, well, there's got to be, at a minimum, some NATO troops in there because we don't take Putin at his word that a ceasefire will be agreed to for more than 30 days, or that he's not going to try to invade again, or that he's not going to do it once Trump leaves. And there is Secretary Rubio meeting with one of his counterparts in Canada. And so it seems like it could be an impasse. There is very little trust among Western leaders for Vladimir Putin, but Donald Trump is willing to hear him out. That's why he's got his personal envoy there in Moscow right now, so that they can see if there is a way to end the bloodshed. Because President Trump is talking about how he prioritizes saving lives of Ukrainians and Russians instead of just basically blaming Putin for things that have happened over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and Rubio is going to be talking to them about tariffs, right? He says the focus will be on Ukrainian issues and other common topics. But Canada said, you know, we're not going to be talking about the annexing of our country, being the 51st state. And Rubio says we are not going to talk about how we're going to take over, we want to take over Canada.
And Rubio's got a tough job, right? He's the one that they sent down to the Panama Canal first. Hey, go figure this out.
And now Venezuela.
And now he's in Canada. And those meetings typically, especially like these foreign secretary meetings that they have a couple months before the heads of state get together with the G7, they can be so boring. And everybody's just reading off a list of things that they're supposed to say to each other. But it seems like today, the Canadians have real problems with the American strategy, and Rubio is going to have to be the tip of the spear for President Trump. Trump got elected with this America First foreign policy, and Rubio is going to have to take all the incoming and explain what it is that his boss is going to do.
Right. He speaks good Trump.
Guys, isn't that amazing? Again, Trump is literally changing the world. We got so much stuff that's happening here at home, guys, that we got to report. NYPD is now arresting protesters who took over Trump Hotel. Like, this is literally... This right here, I want to make this a little bit bigger. So they staged this protest in the Trump Hotel. I'm not going to play this because it gets really loud and there's language and stuff like that. But they are, I guess, trying to make a statement, trying to support Hamas. A lot of them say they support Hamas. Hamas is right. Israel's wrong. But again, too, it's just one of those things where they're trying to take the eye off of what's most important. They're trying to create all this that Trump is this and the. I mean, the Muhammad. I don't even know how to say his name. Mahmoud Khalil is literally a supporter of Hamas. That's the guy that these people are supporters of. Hamas is a terrorist group. And I'm telling you guys, everything seeps in everywhere, even into Congress. We are seeing a lot of stuff where the Democrats are trying to hold up Trump at every single angle. They're trying to shut down the government because remember, right now we have 53 Republicans in the Senate. We need 60 in order to pass the CR bill. I want you to listen to this, guys, because again, too, if we don't fight back as hard as we can, they're just going to keep doing this forever like they've been for the past 50 years. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching, to all of our supporters. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button. Listen to this, guys, because again, they will lie unless somebody calls them out. Check this out.
This crime. After Chauvin was convicted, Mr. Wright called the jury decision, quote, a bogus guilty verdict, close quote. Mr. Wright's disrespect for the finality of court orders is matched by his disrespect for the finality of a jury verdict. He's unfit to lead the Office of Legal Policy, and I urge my colleagues to oppose him.
Mr. Chairman.
Who's calling?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please, go ahead, Senator Cruz.
If I could briefly respond, I will say it is rich listening to our Democrat colleagues profess their fidelity to the rule of law after 4 years of happily turning a blind eye to Joe Biden and the Biden Justice Department, ignoring federal law, refusing to force federal immigration law, blatantly defying the law. And ironically, the litany of false charges that the senator from Illinois just directed at Mr. Wright is really striking, but their favorite talking point is that he will defy federal court orders. Now, he's been a practicing lawyer for many years. He's never defied a federal court order, but I'll tell you who has. Joe Biden. And in fact, let's read what Joe Biden said in his tweet. Here's what Joe Biden said, quote, the Supreme Court tried to block me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me. I've relieved student debt for over 5 million Americans. I'm going to keep going. That's the same Joe Biden they were happy to salute and listen to defy the court if it's in favor of their left-wing political agenda. I will point out the aspersions Ranking Member Durbin just cast to Mr. Wright. He is also in the Marines as a reserve, a major in the Marines. He has fought to defend this nation, and he will make an exemplary Assistant Attorney General at the Department of Justice. And I, for one, am glad we are getting officials at the Department of Justice who will follow the damn law instead of being lawless and treating the Department of Justice and FBI as the personal enforcement arm of the Democrat National Committee. I urge everyone to vote yes, although I'm confident everyone on the left side of the aisle is going to vote no, because for all their words of the rule of law, they could not bring themselves once to demand the rule of law be followed from the Biden Justice Department.
Clerk will call the roll.
You hear it, guys? And again, too, I've got so much to show you guys. This is insane. Want to say again, too, if you look down below this video, guys, we are doing our sale of our True Life News limited edition t-shirts. These are our first of this kind, guys. We're doing a limited quantity. Appreciate everybody who has purchased thus far. Members get 15% off, and the code for that is in our community post that you can see. And just want to say thank you. Remember, we are donating a portion of this to a charity, because that's what we do, guys. We're always going to give back. But I wanted to show you guys, everybody always asks, like, man, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? Well, we just found out that the Democrats have been using the platform ActBlue. The banks have been trying to report ActBlue to the Treasury to the DOJ, but they were stonewalled by the Biden administration. Like, this type of fraud, I really want to see somebody get arrested. I even want to make a point where I want to make a shirt that says arrest somebody. Bondi Patel. Like, listen to this, guys, because how much more fraud, waste, and abuse and just money laundering can we expose and people still not be held accountable? Oh, sorry.
Requested from Treasury during the Biden administration to see whether or not there were bank violations called suspicious activity reports against ActBlue. Of course, they never would get back with us. Finally, after the election, they confirmed that there were some. They allowed my staff to go in and view like 10 or 12. They were really bad, but I can say with confidence there are hundreds more. And now with the new Trump administration, we're going to be able to go in there and look at them. I think we'll be able to answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, hundreds more. That's amazing to think about. Have you received a response to your letter last week to the Treasury Department?
Yes, it's a whole different ballgame for me on the Oversight Committee. The Trump administration actually responds to our request for information. Obviously, they're new and getting their, figuring out where the bathrooms are and trying to get a handle over everything. But I'm very confident that the Oversight Committee will be allowed in to view those suspicious activity reports. And the fact that there are so many shows that the banks were suspicious of a lot of activity. And what we believe is what's been reported and suggested on a lot of conservative channels over the years is that this money wasn't actually coming from John Doe and Jane Doe sitting at home donating $10 every week to every Democrat candidate running for every office in America. We always suspected that there was an influx of cash coming in from other ways. And the way ActBlue set up their account, it would be very easy to launder money into there through fake credit card accounts and fake names and things like that. So the banks, by virtue of catching so many violations from so many different banks, which would suggest to me these were credit cards, I think that we're going to be able to find out where the source of a lot of this money was coming from.
You hear that? We've known. We've always suspected, we've known, and then now we've got evidence. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. He said Trump needs to sue this judges for interfering with the presidency of the Republic, imprison them all now. Man, I tell you what, y'all show Andy some love in the chat. I hope he does. I hope that they figure out some dang way to hold these people accountable, because I am just so tired of seeing Americans getting screwed over every single day. Like, are you kidding me? Listen to this.
Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, joins me now. So the Elon-Democrat relationship's quite interesting. Sometimes you got to break up to make up, but maybe not, Newt.
No, I think this is real, and I think it's for a good reason. The Democrats went nuts, and Elon's been pretty open about this. When you look at their policies, you look at their values, they are a dead end for America. And I think he genuinely came to believe in the last 2 years of the Biden administration that they were so crazy, they were so out of control, that you really had to do something very dramatic to get control of the government. And, they're going to make some mistakes. It's going to be challenging. But on the other hand, 82% of the American people think that Washington is corrupt. Think about that. 8 out of every 10 Americans, according to an America's New Majority Project poll, 8 out of 10 think their government is corrupt.
Yes.
And you can't survive as a free society if you have a government which is so despised by your own people. And that's why I think what Schumer announced today, that he's going to not help keep the government open, he's going to stand and fight. He's on the wrong side of history, and the American people know it. The American people want this government to be smaller. The American people want something like DOGE. And every time Elon releases another set of really stupid spending, I think people look around and go, wow. They kind of knew it was bad, but even as much as I've studied the government, I didn't know it was this sick and had this many things that are totally indefensible.
So Chuck Schumer is going to shut down the government so we keep funding a program to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep teen boys from getting pregnant.
Well, I think if you're Schumer, these are all your allies. Remember, the people getting all this money tended to be liberal Democrats. It's the teachers' unions, the government employee unions. It's the various left-wing intellectuals in the universities. And all of them were getting money from the taxpayer. They loved it. They thought it was fabulous. We have an education system where the teachers' unions have basically destroyed the capacity. Over half the eighth graders cannot read at grade level.
Dang.
And if you watch, there's this chart. It goes straight up for how much we're spending and straight down for how much we're achieving in education. And of course, you know, if you're the people who are writing that chart and you've been getting paid every week, it's unfortunate that nobody's learning, but at least I got my paycheck. And now along comes Donald Trump and he says, you know, maybe we need to shake the system up so kids actually learn. Well, the teachers union's horrified. I mean, this would end the gravy train.
Well, the kids are learning. They're just learning how to transition into the opposite sex. You're getting, boys are getting pregnant and we're spending a lot of money to stop that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Newt. It is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And I don't understand why Democrats say, you know what, Elon, you got that one. Let's knock that one off. Why can't they say that?
I don't know. Look, I think things like having a major research project on transgender mice would be in the same league. I mean, some night, because you're always very funny and you're always very good, some night you ought to find the 10 or 20 truly dumbest things and just run them.
I mean, transgender mice preventing teen boys from getting pregnant. I mean, we're off to a hot start. What about this new line of attack that Democrats are saying that Republicans are for the rich? Is that going to stick?
Well, I think Republicans ought to say we're for everybody.
They are.
I mean, we actually think you ought to have a chance to get a job, not just be on welfare and be dependent. You ought to have a chance to open a small business. You ought to have a chance to have take-home pay. I mean, a lot of these are very bold ideas. You ought to have a chance to go to work. And I think that we want to be the party. And if you watch what Trump's doing in terms of massive investments in the future of this country, we will presently see a boom that is going to be unlike anything we've seen in a very long time, because we're having more and more people deciding this is the place they want to build, this is the place they're going to manufacture, and you're going to see an enormous comeback of American manufacturing, and that means an enormous comeback in jobs for Americans.
Well, hopefully the country has the patience for the boom, because the way the media covers these stock market swings, you'd think it was the Great Depression. You have a little more patience than the press, Newt?
Well, it's not just that. Donald Trump, as a businessman, went through this. If you read his fabulous book on the art of the comeback, I mean, he's been through recessions. He gets it. You know, the other side of the recession is called a recovery. Reagan got into office. He inherited a terrible economy from Jimmy Carter. Once the Reagan tax cuts went into effect, they have something like I think Larry Kudlow said the other day, 15% growth in the first quarter after the tax cuts went into effect. So if Trump, and Mike Johnson's been doing an amazing job as Speaker with a really narrow margin, if Trump can get one big, beautiful bill through, ideally by late May, and you have the tax cuts, you have the deregulation, you have the energy supplies, you'll see this economy booming by next January.
All right. And Newt can get himself another tie.
Guys, let me tell you this. The Rand Paul came out and put out a statement that is about, like, when you see these types of statements, it's so true. The founders never intended for Americans to trust their government. Our entire Constitution was predicated on the notion that government was a necessary evil to be restrained and minimized as much as possible. And that's literally what we're living through right now. Government has gotten so big, they got their hand in everything. They take your taxes. You don't even get a choice. They tax you. You get taxed whenever you make money. You pay taxes whenever you buy things. You get taxed whenever you buy things and sell things. You buy a car and you sell it, you got to pay taxes on it. I mean, it literally makes no sense. Gene Kopedge, thank you so much for the super chat. Said we need to stop all these liberal federal judges that keep stopping the POTUS from carrying out the mandate that we voted Trump into office for. 100%. Guys, people are overstepping the line. They are making it so that the president can't even do his job. And the more fraud and waste and abuse that we find, people are overlooking it. Like, this is the necessary evil that I think about. Trump is so polarizing that no matter what he does, people on the left won't even listen to the facts. They won't even acknowledge the facts. Thank God we got more people on the right that are getting more common sense. But it's taken how many years to get to this? It's going to take another 6 years to get more people to actually realize what I'm about to show you next. We have too much fraud in the federal government. States take advantage of it. They use it for illegals, and then they want more. Check this out.
Freaking at a healthcare rally, they're not going back. The way forward seems to be a hissy fit a day. The tantrum today was all about the big bad Republicans supposedly taking away Medicaid.
And our next guest is helping to expose how states like California are getting rich off the program. Joining us now, Economic Policy Innovation Center President and CEO, Paul Winfrey. You're a twofer today, Paul. So let's get right to it. California gets the second most to New York State, but California is an expert at using Medicaid for something else. What is it?
That's exactly right. So one of the things that California is doing, New York's doing it too, by the way, is that they are using a loophole within the Medicaid program to tax Medicaid managed care plans and then bill the federal government for a portion of that tax. And then they use the benefits or the proceeds that they get to pay for coverage for illegal immigrants and then also long-term care for wealthy people. And so we're seeing both California and New York really expose this loophole and bring a lot of money back to the state and spend it in ways that, you know, should be illegal. If this was a private company, these folks would go to jail, but it's not. It's the government.
Paul, it is illegal for illegal immigrants in this country, illegal aliens, to receive federal Medicaid dollars. That is against the law. But as you point out, California, a little more than a year ago, expanded all of its state Medi-Cal program and allows every illegal migrant in that state to be on the state program. But what they've done is an end around to siphon federal Medicaid dollars into the state, and it should be illegal.
Yes.
What can the federal government and the Trump administration do about that and stop New York, again, also from rich people being on Medicaid, so they're in nursing homes, so their relatives get to keep all of their riches?
That's a great question. There are two things that they can do. The first thing that they can do is through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Studies, CMS, that Dr. Oz has been nominated for. They can start to review these state plans and really push back on states so that we don't see any more abuse. But the real fix has got to come from Congress. So Congress has got to close this loophole that's been in place for the last 40 years that's being abused by states. Now, here's the good news. If they close this loophole, the Congressional Budget Office says that it'll save at least $630 billion over the next 10 years. And you're not going to see...
Okay, $630 billion over the next 10 years. That's $63 billion a year saved. We could save taxpayers if we just close a loophole. Do you not think, guys, please, and this is where I really appreciate when people share these videos, because a lot of people have no idea. This is why you should vote a certain way, because people that vote a certain way allow for these loopholes to exist. Why do you think Trump said in one of his very first interviews, whenever he was running for president, that the reason I don't pay taxes is because I followed the law? Your people created loopholes. All these people in the audience created loopholes, and those are all your donors. They created a loophole with Medicaid so that states could tax the federal government for the money that the federal government is giving to the states. Where in the world does this make sense? How does this make sense? But the stupid federal government run by these bureaucratic politicians allowed it to happen. And guess what? That means they take more of yours and mine hard-earned dollar that we go bust our butt 40, 50 hours a week to pay into Medicare and Medicaid every single week. And they create these loopholes so that they can take care of their buddies. Is this not a dang shame?
Much of a coverage effect, because this money isn't going to help the folks who truly need this program, the vulnerable, the pregnant women, the children, the disabled. And so any coverage effect that we see is just going to affect the illegal population, which I don't want to speak for all Americans, but seems to me to be a major issue with what California is doing here.
I knew they would do it. Paul Winfrey, thank you so much. Please come back. Please come.
Guys, we are moving. We need more transparency than ever, guys. And just want to say thank you to everybody who supports the channel. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, we appreciate you so much. As we dig deeper into this, guys, you can hear me, guys. I'm passionate about this. Because to me, I hate when people get taken advantage of. I hate it whenever you've got people that you don't even know their names of who control your life and your money. When you bust your butt, you work 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and you bust your butt, or you've paid into Social Security for how long, and then they want to give you an $800-900 check when you could have paid into a retirement account in the stock market and been worth millions and millions of dollars. But no, they forced you to pay into something like Social Security where you don't even get a choice to not pay into it. And then they say, oh yeah, we're only going to give you $1,000 a month. And then you can barely make it. And I'm tired of this, guys. I'm so tired of this. I get passionate about this because I feel like we have too much opportunity and there's too many corrupt, evil, greedy people out there that the people with the right intentions and the right heart need to stand up. And we need to do something about it. And that's why as this platform continues to grow, we are going to do something about it, guys. I've got multiple businesses that I'm starting, that I'm doing, but I want to do good for the American people, and I want to fight for people that can't fight for themselves. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports us. We couldn't do this without you guys. When you give a super chat donation, when you're a member of this channel, we get to donate to charity more. We get to give back more, and we just want to bring the truth to you. And I want to give some love to Daniel McKenzie, Mr. Tracy J. Norby, Andy, Warrior Woman for JC, B1 Sly One, Michelle Eisner, Gene Kopich. Y'all show them some love in the chat. We are moving in the right direction. We're going to keep growing this community, guys, and we can't do it without you. So I love you all. Appreciate you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.